If your dog sleeps in the same spot next to you every night, there's a real chance you're misunderstanding what that choice actually means. Most owners assume it's harmless, just comfort or habit, but that assumption is exactly where people get it wrong. Dogs don't choose sleeping positions casually, and in some cases, the place they settle into is a quiet response to something in their environment that feels slightly off to them. Not something dramatic, not something intentional, just a small detail that repeats night after night. And once you understand what your dog might be reacting to, the way they sleep next to you stops feeling random and starts feeling like information you've been missing. Before we go any further, quick thing. If you've ever felt like you understand your dog most of the time, but there are moments that don't fully make sense, that's exactly what this video is for. This channel isn't about training tricks or correcting behavior. It's about noticing patterns that quietly change how you relate to your dog. If that sounds useful, subscribe and stay with me, because once you start seeing these patterns, you don't really stop seeing them. Most of our interaction with dogs happens when they're awake. We walk them, talk to them, correct them, reward them, play with them. There's always some kind of exchange happening. But at night, all of that disappears. There's no command being followed, no reaction being measured, no behavior being shaped. Your dog just settles wherever their body feels calm enough to rest. That's why nighttime behavior matters so much. It's one of the few moments where nothing is being asked of them, which means their choices tend to be more honest. Here's the part most people miss. Two dogs can sleep in the same bed, right next to their owners, and still be communicating completely different things. The bed doesn't matter, the routine doesn't matter. What matters is where the dog chooses to place themselves in relation to you, and how consistently they return to that choice. And the first position people almost always misread happens closer than you think. Sleeping near your head. Some dogs climb onto the bed and, no matter how much space there is, slowly make their way toward your pillow. Most owners laugh it off and assume the dog just wants the softest part of the mattress or is being overly attached. That's the common interpretation, and it's usually incomplete. That area of the bed is where you change the least during the night. Your breathing follows a steady rhythm. Your movements are smaller, and the environment feels predictable. For a dog, that predictability matters more than comfort. Being near your head makes it easier for them to relax without constantly checking where you are. They don't need to watch you or touch you to feel connected. They've chosen the place where your presence feels easiest to track, even in the dark. What most people miss is that this position isn't about clinging. It's about orientation. But not every dog needs that level of proximity to feel settled. And the next position is where a lot of owners quietly jump to the wrong conclusion: sleeping at your feet. When a dog sleeps at your feet, many owners assume it means distance or independence. It can feel like the dog is choosing space instead of closeness. But that assumption usually says more about us than it does about the dog. That spot allows them to stretch out while still staying connected to your movements. They can feel when you shift, sense when you wake up, and remain part of the same shared space without needing constant contact. Dogs that sleep there often feel secure enough that they don't need reassurance through proximity. The connection already feels stable. This position isn't about being far away. It's about resting without tension. Now there's one position that almost always makes people uncomfortable when they notice it, and it's usually read the exact wrong way. Turning their back to you. When a dog sleeps next to you but faces the other way, it's easy to take it personally. We're wired to think turning away means disengaging or pulling back. But dogs don't experience rest the way we do. When a dog feels safe enough to stop monitoring what's happening behind them, their body relaxes differently. They're no longer tracking movement or listening for every small sound. That level of relaxation doesn't happen in environments that feel uncertain. It happens where things feel predictable enough that vigilance isn't necessary. So when a dog regularly sleeps with their back to you, it's often not distance at all, it's trust. Quick pause here. Like if one of these positions describes your dog almost perfectly, that's not random. This is usually the moment people start noticing these patterns in real life. If that's happening to you right now, this channel is probably worth keeping around. All right, let's keep going, because the next one is even more commonly misunderstood. Curling up tight against you. Some dogs curl up so tightly against you that you barely have room to move. A lot of owners interpret this as neediness or anxiety, especially when it happens every night. But that reading misses what's actually happening. Curling up is one of the oldest ways dogs know how to rest. It helps them feel contained and warm. When they choose to do that against you, your presence becomes part of that sense of enclosure. Out of every option in the room, they've chosen the one where their body can relax the fastest. It's not about fear, it's about efficiency and familiarity. Sometimes, though, the message isn't about closeness at all. It's much quieter than that. Light contact. A paw resting lightly on your leg or their side, leaning gently into you, can seem insignificant, which is why most people barely register it. But that small point of contact serves a purpose. It gives the dog a reference point while they rest. Once that connection is there, their body doesn't need anything else to relax fully. This isn't about attention or reassurance, it's about orientation. And this is where many people miss how intentional dogs actually are. There's another position that looks neutral, almost boring, but it usually says a lot about the relationship. Sleeping parallel to you. When a dog stretches out next to you, facing the same direction, without pressing into you or pulling away, their body usually looks loose and unbothered. This position often reflects familiarity more than anything else. They're not choosing closeness because they need reassurance, and they're not choosing distance either. They're simply sharing the space because it feels natural. There's no urgency in it, no tension, just quiet companionship. And finally, there's the behavior that worries owners the most. Moving around during the night. When you wake up and your dog isn't exactly where they were when you fell asleep, it's easy to assume something went wrong. Maybe you moved too much, maybe you disturbed them. But over time, a different pattern becomes clear. Even when they move, they don't disconnect from you. They adjust as the night changes, as the bed warms, as your breathing shifts, and each time they settle back into the same general area. They're not attached to one exact spot. They're attached to being close enough to feel settled again. All of these positions point to the same thing. Your dog's sleeping choices aren't about dominance, rules, or training. They're about where their body feels calm enough to rest when nothing is being asked of them. Sleep strips everything back to familiarity and safety, and dogs are incredibly honest about those things. So tonight, don't try to change anything. Just notice where your dog settles, how close they choose to be, and how consistently they return to that choice. And if this helped you see your dog a little differently, subscribe to the channel and don't miss the next videos for more moments where things quietly start to make sense.